Thursday edition of Canucks Conversation, folks. My name is Dave Bogelli. That is Harmon Dial. It's a very special episode of Canucks Conversation. It's the debut of Canucks Convo Family Feud, and I could not be more excited. We are coming to you from the iconic Wall Center in downtown Vancouver. Looking for your next meeting space? Contact the Wall Center for all your event needs at sales@wallcenter.com. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, the home of our electric watch parties during the season and our off-season chill spot at this time of year. Make Greta your spot to eat, drink, and play this summer. I wonder what would happen if you went to Greta and said, hey, put Family Feud on.
I have no idea.
We'll find out. Because people everywhere are going to be watching
Canucks Convo, obviously.
They'll put on Canucks Convo, the official home. Yeah. Okay. I could not be more excited for this. I've talked about it last week. I talked about it on the show earlier this week. I could not be more excited for Canucks Convo Family Feud. We asked 100 people on Twitter. We're going to figure out ways to involve the podcast listeners as well, because obviously the people on Twitter also listen to the podcast for the most part, but people who only listen on podcasts, I want you folks to have a chance to fill out the survey. So we'll come up with a solution. I think we're going to put in the podcast description on Tuesday's episode. We're hoping to do this weekly, and we're also hoping to do it all year long. Our producer, Jacob Lazar, is championing this. He's going to host the show. He's coming up with the questions. Harmon and I don't know what's coming. And I think that's going to mean it's going to be a pretty entertaining segment. And I'm very excited to do it. You're going first with 25 seconds. I'm going second with 30 seconds. We need a total of 200 points. You're going to get 5 questions. Your point values are based on how many people answered with your answer on the survey that Jacob put out. Any questions?
No questions.
I think I explained the game well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just hope that I don't Maple Leafs style choke this.
I know people in the chat are rooting for you to choke. I'm not going to lie to you.
Harmon,
why would you hope for that?
As I said, Harmon, I've given you a few layups for today. This should be an easy one. I would be shocked.
The more you say that, the more worried I get.
Patrick Stepan.
Honestly, though, now that I think about it from a listener's perspective, I probably would be rooting for me to choke too, just because it'd be hilarious.
It would be really funny if everybody's like, "Oh, don't worry, Harmon, it's a layup," and you're like, best coach in Canucks history. Mike Keenan. Anyways, okay. I'm gonna mute Jacob. Take it away.
All right, Harmon. We're gonna let Quads mute. He's got to get the big headphones on too, so he can't hear your answers. Everyone, my name is Jacob Lazar. I'm your man hosting Canucks Conversation Family Feud. As Quad's got the big music headphones on. Apologies, it's gonna be a little rough as we start getting set up here. First time for this. Here we go. 25 seconds on the clock, Harmon.
All right.
Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question.
Got it.
All right, Quads. Can you hear us right now in the back? Nope. We're good. All right. Pulling up the questions here. Good luck, Harmon.
Thank you. I need it.
Name the most skilled Vancouver Canuck of all time.
Pavel Bure.
The current Canuck most likely to have their number retired.
Quinn Hughes.
The Canucks' biggest rival.
Chicago Blackhawks.
Name a Canucks coach from the 90s or 2000s.
Pat Quinn.
The best Canucks jersey of all time.
Black Skate.
Good work. With time to spare.
I butchered the rival one. I should have picked Oilers with the recency.
Yeah, all right. So you can tap Quads. You can let him know to come back in. I'm going to tally up the points for you here.
What?
I'm done.
You're done? Oh. Okay.
So I need about 30 seconds to tally the points. Harmon, you did a good job. I'm impressed with those answers. So actually, let's go through here. Harmon, so for the most skilled Canuck of all time, you answered Pavel Bure.
Ooh, good one. Oh wait, I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to hear this.
Yeah, sorry. That's fine. That one's on me. Yeah. So again, couple hiccups as we get this set. Okay, I'm not going to give any points. We're just going to go right into Quads now. All right. I will get the timer set up for Quads.
He's going to tally the points at the end.
You sure?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Log back in,
you
buddy.
guys are sure?
Yes.
100% sure. 100% sure. All right. I mean, That's a tough one because I'm sure you would have answered that, and I would have been able to use.
It's going to be the buzzer. Yeah. Okay.
You know what? You have to answer. You have to answer Bure just so I can do the
Sure.
buzzer.
Deal.
All right. 30 seconds for you.
Wait, how many points do I need?
We're gonna tie that at the end.
I'm not going to tell you how many points you need.
I'm supposed to know. Aren't I supposed to know how many points I need? Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Let's go. I don't need it. I don't need it. Let's go. Let's fire it up.
Okay. If you want me to tell you how many points you need, I don't know the exact number, but it's probably single digits. So you're going to be good. Harmon killed it.
Attaboy, Harm.
All right. Your time begins when I finish reading the first question. Name the most skilled Vancouver Canuck of all time.
Pavel Bure.
Try again.
Henrik Sedin.
The current Canuck most likely to have their number retired.
Quinn Hughes.
Try again.
Elias Pettersson.
Name the Canucks' biggest rival.
Edmonton Oilers.
Name a Canucks coach from the 90s or 2000s.
Pat Quinn.
Oh, I think that's what Harmon answered. Try again.
Mark Crawford.
Good. Final question. The best Canucks jersey of all time.
White flying skate.
Okay, I'll give you one more.
Black flying skate?
Well,
did you say the flying skate counts as one?
Yes, I'll give you
the current one, the current jersey.
There you go. Okay, current jersey. Good. Okay. That was not very smooth. I apologize to all the listeners.
That was fine. That was fine. You can tally it up.
I will tally it up.
Yeah.
What I really need back here is a second monitor for this. But you know what? That was good. You guys I can tell you right now before I even tally it, you guys are going to win. You got all the number one answers.
Let's go. So, all the number one answers. That's really good.
The number one
now
answers.
Next week is going to be really hard. Jacob's going to make the hardest survey.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure that you guys are punished for this performance next week. Just give me a couple seconds here to tally up the answers. Actually, we can go through it together. So
let's do it.
For the most skilled Canuck of all time, Harmon answered Pavel Bure, 67 points there. For the Sedins were grouped together because a lot of people just said Sedin or Sedins. So for that, we're going to give 9 points there to Quads. For the second question was the current Canuck most likely to have their number retired. Quinn Hughes, overwhelming favorite amongst the fans with 87 points. Quads, you said Elias Pettersson, 3 points. Hughes, obviously the number one answer.
Did JT Miller get more votes than Elias Pettersson?
5.
Okay. Oh my God. I forgot. We got to deal with the masses.
Also, Connor Garland with 2 votes as well.
Connor Garland. Wyatt made 2 accounts. Wyatt Art made 2 accounts.
And Quad, you like this one. A single vote for Artur Shilovs.
I promise I didn't take the survey.
You actually, can you please tell us the weirdest responses?
Tell us.
Sure, I can tell you some weird ones. There was, for the most skilled of all time, someone submitted Matt Sundin.
Okay,
Kyle Wellwood and Louis Eriksson.
Okay.
For the Canucks' biggest rival, Harmon, you answered Chicago.
Yeah, I butchered that one.
14 points there.
Oh, that's good. Points.
And Quads, you got the number one answer with the Edmonton Oilers. That was 50 points.
Nice.
For Edmonton. Name a Canucks coach from the 90s or 2000s. Harmon, you said Pat Quinn, which was 32 points. It was not the number one answer. Quads, you said Mark Crawford?
I did.
That was the number one answer with 34 points.
A little bit surprised.
I went with Pat Quinn first.
Yeah,
Pat Quinn would be
we did have a few interesting responses in there. We had
Rennie.
Yeah, we had Rennie.
Yeah.
we had someone say Torts, even though he did not coach in the 2000s, but so I had to throw that response
the 2010s.
out. Yeah, that was the 2010s for Tortorella. And quite a lot of Alain Vigneault as well.
Yeah.
And then 9 votes for Mike Keenan.
Okay.
And then finally, the best Canucks jersey of all time. Number one answer goes to Harmon Dial with the black skate. 72 points on that one. The current Blue Orca is the number 3 answer with 9 points. The number 2 answer was the original Stick and Rink jersey.
A good choice.
And 3 votes. Shout out to the West Coast Express era Orca, which for me is the number 2 Canucks jersey of all time, just because that's the one I grew up with. So great work. You guys absolutely shattered it. Total of 377 points. Harmon with 272 all on his own. He got 4 of the 5 number one answers, or 3 of the 5 number one answers, and he got a number both of the number 2s and the ones he missed.
I just want to say you crushed it, Jacob. I had my mic unplugged. Did you introduce yourself as I'm your man, Jacob Lazar?
I did, yes.
Good.
I
Awesome.
did.
Awesome. That was a direction I gave. So I'm glad you listened. I like that. I like that a lot. This
So
was a lot of fun.
It was, and we'll play the little victory music here for you guys.
That's right. We did it. We did
Let's
it.
go. I didn't choke.
And you didn't choke. Jacob's going to make that way harder next week.
Yeah.
Next week's is going to be a slog. I think we'll do it on Thursday as well. We'll do it next Thursday.
Yeah.
But thanks for watching that, folks. Oh yeah, we have a whole episode to do.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. We're previewing the Pacific Division today. We're very well prepared for this segment. We were going back and forth a little bit about the Pacific Division. This segment of the show is brought to you by the Nation Gear Summer Sale. It's time to gear up for summer. The Nation Gear Out of Office Summer Sale is here, and it's 1 week only. We're taking 20% off your entire order. Yes, you heard that right. 20% off. Some exclusions apply, but don't let that stop you from snagging the best deals of the season. Off season, more like 20% off season. See, I nailed it with the timing and the joke delivery on that one. And it gets even better. Spend over $200 and we'll throw in free shipping. So what are you waiting for? Head over to nationgear.ca and grab your favorite gear before it's gone. Remember, this sale is for 1 week only, so don't miss out. I was cleaning out some stuff for my grandpa's house recently, where we famously used to do the podcast when it was starting out. Bruce, there it is shirts. I found those in the closet.
Oh my God.
Those have got to be on sale. If we still have any left, I'll start giving them out.
Stock has dropped on that one for sure.
Stock may have dropped on the Bruce There It Is shirt. But anyways, yeah, check out the Nation Gear Summer Sale. Okay, Harm, we're going to preview the Pacific Division. Not so much a preview. We're going to be talking about the Pacific Division and kind of going through each team's offseason and the look of each team. And later, we're going to give our predictions for how the Pacific is going to shake out in terms of where teams finish in the standings. So let's get started with who we agree is basically the belle of the ball, and that's the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers are the team to beat in the Pacific. Are you buying that statement?
For sure. I mean, they just made it to the Stanley Cup final, and you look at their summer sort of additions, extensions. I think they have the best forward group in the NHL. Being able to acquire Skinner and Arvidsson at bargain prices is really going to help solidify their top 9 winger group. And I go back to this. Leon Draisaitl will finally have top 6 caliber wingers to play with, because that was an underrated storyline from the Oilers season, was guys like Warren Fogle, later in the playoffs, Dylan Holloway, Ryan McLeod at certain points were getting opportunities on that Draisaitl line. Even in years past, you'd have bottom 6 quality players like Kyler Yamamoto in that top 6 right wing spot. Now they can play Draisaitl with Skinner and Arvidsson if they want to, and that lets them load up the top line with RNH, McDavid, and Hyman. So top to bottom, keeping Henrique as well. I think at that price point, to have his versatility, if he can play center, he can play wing, he can play up the lineup, further down the lineup, especially the chemistry that he found with Connor Brown and Matthias Janmark. I also think Connor Brown, based off what we saw in the playoffs and his speed returning, is going to be way better this season than he was last season. I think their forward group is the best in the NHL.
Dylan Holloway too. I was really impressed with him in the playoffs.
He's got breakout potential.
Yep.
It's sort of unfortunate for him from an individual standpoint, in that because of all those signings of Skinner and Arvidsson and Henry coming back, he's not going to get the opportunity that he may have had otherwise. So he may not pop out in a big way production wise, especially since he's not going to play first unit power play, obviously. But he looked good at times in the playoffs. Dynamic, speedy, disruptive on the forecheck. He can be a real impact player for them in the bottom 6. I didn't love the extension for Corey Perry. I thought he was a non-factor in the playoffs. That's the one.
Seemed very unnecessary.
Yeah, that didn't seem justifiable for me. But
didn't they give him 1.1 million? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, it was above a few $100,000 above league minimum.
The question I was talking about this with Bagged Milk when it happened was just like, who else was rushing to sign Corey Perry for that number? It had real Tanner Pearson contract extension energy.
Yeah, but this is way cheaper still. So yeah.
That's quite as bad.
The other thing that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is Evander Kane's future. He dealt during last season with sports hernia issues, reportedly, was playing through that, which is, I think, part of the reason why he didn't have his typical speed and didn't look as effective at times. And then in the Stanley Cup final, missed games with a separate injury. His status for next season is unknown. So this lineup projection that you're seeing for people watching on YouTube doesn't even include Evander Kane. And does that mean he's going to be stashed on LTIR for the entire season, which is probably better for the Oilers than if he was in the lineup, because Kane's lost speed, and I don't think he's nearly the player that he was, say, two or 3 years ago. So now, does that give them the cap space at the deadline, go out and acquire a defenseman, which I think they need?
Yep, absolutely. That's going to be beneficial for them. And we look at their defense core here: Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard. Evan Bouchard, Norris Trophy favorite. Do you like that pick?
I don't know about favorite. He's definitely going to be in the conversation with Hughes and Makar and Fox.
Maybe favorite's hard to predict, but he's up there, and he wasn't there last year. I saw him in the playoffs, and playoffs don't count towards your vote, but I looked back on my ballot, and I had him 5th, and I know a lot of people didn't even have him on their ballot, but I was looking, and I was like, man, like, he's playing like a top 3 defenseman in the NHL. Down the stretch, he was. So I'm curious what it looks like for Evan Bouchard next year. But beyond him and Matthias Ekholm, who's also getting a year older as well, doesn't look great for the Edmonton Oilers on the back end. But it never really looks great for them, does it?
I am curious to see what they do with or how Philip Broberg develops, because I thought Broberg at times showed some potential in the playoffs. He got some reps with Nurse, and I thought that looked way better than playing Nurse and Cease together. Ultimately, I feel like they're going to go out and acquire a defenseman at the deadline on the right side. And again, if Kane is on LTIR, there's your cap space to go out and do it. They didn't spend any major assets on the trade market this summer, so they'll have dry powder available. Yep. And it's the final year of Draisaitl and Bouchard at these bargain prices. So of course they're going to go out and be all in, be aggressive at the deadline. And it helps that this coming year, the top rental defenseman on the market isn't going to be a Calgary Flame, which if you're the Oilers, they're always going to have to overpay to land, have their rival help them. So I think the blue line is something that is obviously still a question mark, but I also like Brett Kulak on the third pair. I think CC's fine on a third pair if it's a Kulak CC third pair. And I think Darnell Nurse, if you give him an actual, put it this way, if you gave Nurse a Tanev quality partner, I think Darnell Nurse all of a sudden looks way better.
That's a good
because
take.
Tanev just cleans up so many of the messes, and I think Nurse, at least in the past, has shown that, hey, he may not be a number 1 defenseman, but he's been top 4 caliber and can excel in a second pair, but he needs a partner that is also top 4 caliber.
Cody Ceci.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on. Oilers is the team to beat. Moving on, we're not going in any specific order. We're saving the bottom feeder teams. We're not even going to really dive into them. But let's talk about the Seattle Kraken, Harm. This is a team I wanted to talk to you about, and I thought I was going to come in here with some very unique take that you weren't going to also have, but you kind of agree with me. And what we were talking about before the show went to air was that, hey, the Seattle Kraken might be pretty good next year. Like, the Seattle Kraken might be in the conversation for the playoffs next year. We were all clowning on them for their free agent commitments. That Chandler Stevenson contract is arguably among the worst signed in free agency, but Chandler Stevenson's going to be good for them next year. Like, he's going to solidify that forward group. As we take a look at it here, you've got Matty Beniers, who's going to get better, you would assume, right? Like, take a step forward. You know what you're going to get from Jared McCann. You know what you're going to get from Jordan Eberle. Like, this forward group, looking at it with Shane Wright as your fourth line center, and I don't love Shane Wright. Longtime listeners of this show know that. But, like, Brandon Tanev's on your fourth line. This forward group can compete in the Pacific Division.
Yeah, I think Beniers leveling up is really the underrated sort of storyline to watch, because he only had 37 points in his sophomore campaign, took a step back, but honestly, watching him play, he still looked really good at times. I think he was snake bitten in large part, where you look at his underlying numbers. On a shooting percentage was really low. Individual shooting percentage was really low. And those factors typically are a sign that, okay, this guy's going to produce more moving forward. Not to mention, how many times do you have forwards that have a strong rookie year, maybe have a bit of a down year in their sophomore campaign, and then year 3, they pop off with just a monster season? Like Lucas Raymond immediately comes to mind when I think of that type of narrative. And I expect Beniers to sort of be in that conversation as well. you had Stevenson, you had Montour. Again, I don't like either of those contracts for Stevenson or Montour, but all three of those guys are going to, Stevenson, Montour, the additions, both of them are going to inject some much needed offense. And we haven't touched on the blue line yet, but I think the blue line is what I really like with the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, let's take a look at that blue line. Let's look at the Seattle Kraken's defense score. You got Vince Dunn, Adam Larson, Jamie Alexiak, Brandon Montour, obviously another contract they've signed. Again, another one of those contracts that, maybe not the best long-term. Like, we'll probably be looking at it in 4 years and saying, that wasn't a good contract to sign. But, and I mean, we said that right now for that reason. But going into next year, Brandon Montour is an upgrade. Like, Brandon Montour is one of their best defensemen now. You've got him on your second pairing, Riker Evans and Will Borgen projected on that third pairing, courtesy of Daily Faceoff.
Yeah, so first of all, I think Dunn and Larson are one of the most underrated top pairs in the NHL. The last 2 years, with that pair on the ice, the Seattle Kraken's goal differential cumulatively is like plus 50 or something in that neighborhood. They've been dominant pretty quietly. And now that second pair with Alexiak and Montour, his puck moving, his offensive impact, I think, is going to make a difference. There's obviously going to be some question marks in the sense that the environment difference, what is that going to do for Montour, in the sense that every defenseman seems to find their peak value in Florida. So now that he's away from that favorable Florida environment, does Montour's game take a bit of a step back? But still, if he's playing on a second pair, I think he's going to provide a lot of value there. He may quarterback the power play and give Seattle's first unit man advantage a jolt as well. And then that third pair, I'm really high on Riker Evans. I think he's a really talented prospect. I think him coming in for Dumoulin is an upgrade. And then Will Borgen, who was a totally competent number 4 or 5 defenseman, played on that second pair with Alexiak. Now he's in a third pair role. That's a luxury to have. So I like Seattle's blue line.
Okay, you brought up Montour. Sidebar. Has there been a defenseman from Florida? Like, am I blanking? Has there been a defenseman from Florida that got that rejuvenation and then left and then sucked?
We haven't seen,
because we're going to see 2 this year. Yeah, Montour, Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Yeah, we haven't been able to really test it out.
We're about to test out a theory this year. I don't know if Montour's going to suck. I'm having fun, but I was trying to think about that because it's a great take. I think I was trying to think if there's been an example that I was just blanking on. I don't think there is.
Who did they lose the off season prior in the blue line? Because
Ollie Levy.
What I want to see there. One sec. I'm gonna
take your time. I'm also trying to figure it out.
1 second here.
Uyghur is an example of someone that kind of kept their level. Like, Uyghur was good with the Flames.
He was still good with the Flames.
So maybe our theory isn't bulletproof.
Gudas was still really good in Anaheim.
If Gudas can do it, anyone can do it.
Mark Stahl wasn't really that good.
Yeah, wasn't he like 37?
Yeah, but Mark Stahl in Florida, they had him at times playing on the second pair.
That's true. I don't think there's been an example yet. I think there's actually only been the opposite. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson's a good litmus test.
Oh,
Did you just learn how to defend in Florida and now you're going to be great in Toronto?
Leafs made an interesting bet there. We'll see.
A gamble. Yep, they did. Yeah, people in the chat. I love this. People in the chat were like, what about OEL? Already people are talking about OEL. I love it. Okay. Anything else that you want to say about Seattle? Other than, I'll just say this. Joey Decord and Philip Grubauer doesn't stand out as like, oh, what a great goaltending tandem. But that was the goaltending tandem. It was, right? In the first year of the Kraken when they found success and when they made the playoffs?
I don't know if Decord was there.
Second year for the Kraken, yeah.
That was the second year they made the playoffs, or second year Decord was there?
Let me double check. I'm pretty sure that was their tandem when they made the playoffs in their second season.
Perfect.
I will double check.
Well, don't double check because that perfectly fits my argument. So don't double check. That's what we're going with. They made the playoffs because that team was better than the team in front of them last year, right? So you would assume that with the team taking a step forward and addressing some of those holes, that they'll be able to be at least in the conversation for a top 3 specific spot. I don't have them. And again, we're going to get to our predictions. I don't have them above the Canucks or the Oilers. Shocker. I have the Oilers number 1, Canucks number 2, but like they could be in that conversation at least for the second spot. Like they're not going to come and win the Pacific, but they could be in the conversation for that third, second spot. They're going to be in that range.
Yeah, I mean they're only a year off of Game 7 of round 2.
Exactly.
Where the Canucks were this past spring. And
exactly.
The other thing to keep in mind is looking at this past season, the Kraken were the only team in the NHL that ranked top 10 in surrendering the fewest goals against per hour that didn't make the playoffs. So the top defensive teams in order: Florida, Winnipeg, LA, Carolina, Boston, Vancouver, Rangers, Dallas, Kraken, Oilers.
Yep.
So that just goes to show you, if they can just squeeze out a little bit more offense, which again I think they can do, then they'll be cooking in terms of contending for a playoff spot.
That forward group looks like it could do that. Like, that forward group looks like it could be improved. So Seattle, sleeper pick. Okay, how good are the Vegas Golden Knights, Harm? That's my question for you. How good are the Vegas Golden Knights?
So what we do know is they still have an elite blue line, right? Noah Hannafin, Pietrangelo, McNabb, Theodore, Haig, Whitecloud, like 1 to 6. That's a really strong group. And sure, they don't have that Hughes, Bouchard level number 1 defenseman, but it's the depth of their blue line. And after they won the cup, so many people were talking about them as the model blue line. A lot of front offices as well, because it wasn't just the offensive touch. It was also the size, the ranginess, how they protected the middle. So that blue line is still going to be elite. Now, the forward group, this is where they've taken a step back in my mind. They lose Jonathan Marchessault, who led them with 40 goals or so last year. They lose Stevenson. They lose Carrier. They lose Amadio. Those are a lot of impact pieces in your top 9. And Vegas' success next year is going to depend on the forwards that are going to be occupying those new top 9 roles. Can they produce? Can they step up? Now, the first question that comes to my mind is, what does a healthy Tomas Hertl for a full season look like? Because Hertl coming back, he didn't have much time after the deadline because he was hurt and never really found his stride. He only had 1 point in 7 games in that playoff series. But we know that when Hertl is healthy and productive, that he can be a borderline, first-line caliber player. So if he finds his stride, that could give their forward group a bit of a juice and help them offset some of the loss scoring there. Pavel Dorofeyev is a name that I'm keeping an eye on. Younger guy, has a lot of scoring potential, has been one of those players that has produced very efficiently 5-on-5 relative to not getting a lot of ice time, just because Vegas forward group was pretty deep last year. So if he steps up into a top 6 role now, is he going to break out? Right? That's an important X factor. And they've got other interesting bets, like Nick Waugh is a player that when Vegas has typically been healthy, he's centered their fourth line, which has just been an embarrassment of riches. But I look at Nick Waugh and I go, he'd be a heck of a third line center on pretty much any team around the NHL. And honestly, on some teams, he might even be an effective second line center. And even when Jack Eichel got hurt last year for about 20, 25 games or so, Waugh stepped into a top 6 role and was producing it in your point per game pace. So it's Waugh player that with some of these forward departures can step up and produce more. They also went out and acquired Alex Holtz, right? 16 goals. And one of those guys that he's going to have to earn defensive trust and can he play higher up the lineup, but is an interesting sort of gamble. I can see a scenario where Dorofeyev pops, Holtz pops, you get a healthy, productive Hertl, and you're still talking about the Vegas Golden Knights as a bona fide Stanley Cup contender. But there's also a scenario where those guys maybe don't hit to the extent that their front office is hoping. And now we look at Vegas as, okay, they're going to be a playoff team, but how much of a threat are they to actually go deep in the postseason?
It's a fair question. It's a very fair question. Harmon, you and I threw this out about, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. We were talking about Vegas's top 9 forward group and the Canucks top 9 forward group. Forward groups as a whole, which one are you taking?
Vancouver's.
Easy like that?
Yeah.
I think a month ago you were arguing for Vegas.
This was before the offseason.
So their offseason is totally...
Yeah, I mean, they lost Marsh. They lost a 40-goal scorer. And they lost Stevenson. They lost Carrier. They lost Amadio. Those are a lot of important pieces. And I think the Canucks forward group wasn't as good as it is right now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think going into the playoffs, yeah, absolutely. I would have argued Vegas is a deeper forward group than Vancouver, but now Vancouver has a deeper forward group than Vegas.
Unequivocally. I was expecting some pushback there.
I mean, Vegas is a better blue line than the Canucks. like in terms of depth, right? They don't have a Quinn Hughes level guy, but up front, I'll take Vancouver over Vegas for sure.
And in net as well.
Yeah, and that's where like Aiden Hill was so streaky last year, man. Remember at the start of the season when they were setting records for like longest undefeated streak for a team that just won a Stanley Cup, no cup hangover. That was Aiden Hill playing to like a 930 or 940 save percentage. He was on one for the first 4 weeks of the season or so, and then he got hurt. Then he really struggled down the stretch. Hill was one of the streakiest goaltenders in the NHL last year. So what version of him are you going to get? And then Ilya Samsonov, we know how streaky he can be as well. 2 years ago, he was a really steady starter for the Leafs, at least up until the playoffs. But Samsonov is your number 2 guy in a tandem. I like him. I don't like him as a 1A, but as a 1B, I think he could be decent. So
It's fine.
we'll see what they get in net too, because those guys are both injury prone and they're both streaky.
Speaking of goaltending, though, you know who else is streaky? Darcy Kemper, who the LA Kings with Make a Save Dave Rittich are going in with that as their tandem. Darcy Kemper, David Rittich. Let's preview the LA Kings. Harmon, after free agency, the LA Kings appear to have taken a step backwards.
One of the most disappointing off seasons in the NHL. I mean, sure, getting off the PLD contract was a good start. I didn't like pretty much anything they did after that. Right now, they're paying Warren Foegele, Tanner Jeannot, and Joel Edmondson a combined $10 million. Right? If I was them, I would have rather pooled that money together and gone out and acquired an actual difference maker, because Warren Foegele, I like him a lot as a player, but at $3.5 million, he's more likely than not going to provide bottom 6 value, and you're buying the top on Warren Foegele. Tanner Jeannot is a bottom 6 piece. Joel Edmondson is a third pair defender. Like, they're spending $10 million on guys that are going to provide an impact further down the lineup, near the bottom of it. I just don't think that makes a lot of sense when I look at the Kings, and if anything, I look at their depth and I go, they don't have bad depth. What they're really missing is elite level talent at the top of their lineup. So I don't understand why they didn't just pool their cap space together and either keep it to wait for an opportunity to become potentially available on the trade market, or just spend it on an actual top 6 forward rather than middle to lower of the lineup type pieces. Plus on the blue line, they lose Matt Roy, which they've got Brant Clark coming, who I'm high on, and he could be a difference maker. Maybe he can instantly thrive in a top 4 role. But when we think about the Kings' identity, them being what they were number 1 or number 2 in the NHL in the PK last season, Matt Roy was a huge part of it. So losing him is going to be a major blow.
What hurt them the most? What off-season move, whether it was Matt Roy leaving or the Joel Edmondson contract, you pick, what hurt them the most this offseason? I'm not talking long-term. Next season, to compete for the Pacific. We said they took a step back.
It's the 1-2 whammy of you lose Matt Roy. Now you're paying Joel Edmondson as a sort of replacement, right? Because Edmondson at 3.85, like, I still can't get over that. That is one of the worst contracts handed out in free agency. Like, the guy, like, put it this way, I don't think Joel Edmondson is that much of an upgrade on Derek Forbort. He is better than Forbort, but not by a lot.
Not by
the
$2.3 million.
Yeah, not by the discrepancy in their salary.
See that mental math? 2.3 plus 1.5. 3.8. Okay. So the Kings, I wanted to talk about them again as a bit of a, I don't even call them a sleeper. I think everybody overuses that term, but when I'm talking about the Seattle Kraken competing, the Kings have a path to competing with this lineup that we just ripped apart. And it, surprisingly, to some people, is Darcy Kemper. Like, I look at Darcy Kemper and I say, this is a guy who just a few years back was a very good goaltender, got the big contract because of how well he played, in a strong defensive environment. We've had Kevin Woodley on the show so many times, and what does he always talk about is how a defensive environment changes and how different goaltenders play in different defensive environments. I always talk about Jacob Markstrom, a guy who learned to play in a piss poor defensive environment in Vancouver and then went and signed in Calgary where things were a lot tighter and had to learn some things that he needed to change in his game. You'll remember that Markstrom did struggle a little bit out of the gate, and he did look a little bit lost, and he was starting to have some of those old demons pop up, but now he's figured out how to play in that strong defensive environment. It's a big change.
Honestly,
he didn't
even figure it out. The Flames just got way worse defensively last year, and it's like, oh my God, Jacob Markstrom is really good again.
He did figure it out before that. He did.
Yeah.
Like his first couple of years in Calgary, they were good defensively those years. And he did learn to backstop that team. So you're right, though. Thank God he played in Vancouver because he was able to flip the switch last year. But what I'm saying, like, when we talk about a guy like, I don't know, Connor Hellebuck going to the Buffalo Sabres, that was one that was thrown out by a bunch of people a few years back. Connor Hellebuck struggles a lot with east-west movement. And the Buffalo Sabres give up a lot of east-west movement. So you don't want to have that as your goaltender. You don't go out and make that trade and have no clue what's going to happen when that guy steps in between the pipes. With Darcy Kemper, he's going to an environment with the LA Kings where they do play that stringent defensive system, and I think it's going to benefit his game. I think we're going to have a good year from Darcy Kemper, and I think that's going to help the Kings. The question you asked me was, what about the playoffs? And when we talk about the playoffs, what cost the Kings in the playoffs, Harm? They took the Edmonton Oilers, the guys who went to the Stanley Cup final. They only lost on the power play. Like it was dead even. It was 12 apiece when it came to even strength goals in that first round series. The power play is what hurt them. I said it to you before, and I'll say it on air. Darcy Kemper is a better penalty killer than Cam Talbot.
He is better, but
he's going to make a difference.
Good enough to slow down the Oilers' power play?
More than Cam Talbot, yes.
Enough for them to actually
give the
Oilers a real run? I don't think so.
No, probably not. But enough to also let you be a little more free at 5-on-5.
Yeah, that's
the other part of it. Darcy Kemper, you can play that strong defensive system. It doesn't have to be as tight. Like, they need to loosen it up. And you have players begging in the media to loosen up the system. Now they have the opportunity to with Darcy Kemper coming.
For me, the bull case for the Kings being successful next year, and again, I don't think they're real threats to go deep in the playoffs, but just for them to have at least a good regular season is Quinton Byfield. If he can take another step, I think that helps.
Yes.
With respect to the production you get at the top of the lineup, because Byfield had moments last year where he looked terrified. He took a step from 22 points 2 years ago to 55 points, and he's still only 21 years old. So he could have that big breakout. He's had 3 years of experience in the league now. So that could be a path for them to improve offensively. And then what you mentioned, it does sound like they're going away from that 1-3-1.
Thank God.
Neutral zone system and into more of a standard forecheck. So
that was brutal to watch. That's the other thing. We didn't talk about it. Well, we talk about it when we have to watch it. But that's something we should talk about in the Kings preview. They suck to watch. They're like the worst team to watch. No wonder they have no fans. Anyways.
But yeah, those two things I'm interested to see what impact that has. But Kings, like, put it this way, the gap between the Kings and Oilers was already significant, just in the sense of Kings always get the Oilers and they can't get past the Oilers. That gap took a pretty sizable another like leap, with the Oilers getting better and the Kings getting, in my mind, notably worse on paper.
Swapping some players too. Arvidsson, Foegele, swapping some players.
Yeah, and I like Arvidsson more than Foegele. So,
okay, not competing this year in the Pacific are the Anaheim Ducks, the San Jose Sharks, and the Calgary Flames. I don't think we need to spend much time on those, other than which one we think will do the best and which one we think will do the worst of those three. I think Calgary is going to do the best of those three, and then I have Anaheim followed by San Jose. I think San Jose is going to be not very good. Well, they got Toffoli. I don't know.
Come on, Quads. Come on.
Well, what does Anaheim have?
Well, hold on. Anaheim has...
Are we about to do this? Are we really going to do this? Are we diving into who's going to finish by 5 more points, Anaheim or San Jose?
But here's the thing. I see a number of forwards on Anaheim who could break out just because they have so much young talent like
Leo
Leo
Carlsson.
Carlsson,
Yep.
and he only played 55 games last year.
That's fair.
Right? So Leo Carlsson is probably going to take a big step. Mason McTavish could take another big step. I expect Trevor Zegras. He only had 15 points in 31 games. He's a way better player than that. I expect, and he only played 31 games. Like, it's not just that they're going to improve talent-wise. They're also probably going to be healthier up front. Now, they did lose Adam Henrique. Didn't really replace him and sort of went MIA during the offseason in terms of not really making any moves. But they've got a lot of young pieces who I think can improve. And again, I don't expect them to be anywhere near the playoff conversation.
I've got them higher than San Jose.
But okay, yeah, then we're in agreement. Why were you?
Because I tried to bring up that maybe San Jose could make it close.
They could make it close, maybe, but
San Jose can be exciting. Obviously, Celebrini, Will Smith, and then Toffoli as the veteran guy to complement them. But
I forgot about Celebrini. I'm like, oh, Toffoli's coming.
But I would still say they're going to be the worst team in the Pacific.
Okay, let's get to our poll question. I see Jacob.
we didn't do our final stand. Did we do our?
We'll do it in the poll question.
Okay,
We'll do it in the poll question. I see Jacob's got a sub poll question. I'll ask you this one, Harm, before we get to the ad read. Better chicken product, fingers or strips, or fingers/strips, or nuggets? I'll tell you what.
Strips.
We don't have a fast food sponsor on the show right now. I went to Chick-fil-A in the States when I was in Seattle last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember when I went. I had Chick-fil-A for the first time. The Chick-fil-A nuggets were so good. Like, I've never had nuggets like that in my life.
I had Chick-fil-A once in New York. Amazing.
Yeah.
But then I, out of curiosity, looked up their
Don't do this to me. What?
nutritional facts and the amount of sodium that they have in, like, of course you're gonna expect a lot from fast food, but I'm talking like even relative to like McDonald's is like appalling.
It's more than McDonald's?
Way more. Like, not just a little bit more, way more. At least from what I remember 2 years ago. Enough to where I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go to
I'm
Chick-fil-A
not
again.
gonna lie to you. I'm glad. I would have thought like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna be healthy today. I'm gonna go to Chick-fil-A instead of
no.
McDonald's. Huh. All right, Canadian stuff only. Okay, we'll limit it to Canadian stuff only. Best nuggets. Best nuggets. It's hard. It's hard to go against McDonald's. I like McDonald's nuggets.
Honestly, I haven't tried chicken nuggets at many different places.
I like, yeah.
I'm
Maybe
a
that's-
Popeyes guy when it comes to fried chicken.
Ooh,
Love me
okay.
some Popeyes.
I guess that's not fair. Popeyes takes the cake. You've had Popeyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Popeyes takes the cake. But strips or nuggets?
strips.
Strips. Fair. I like nuggets. I'm a nuggets guy. And the poll is exactly 50-50, so
Really?
this is indicative of how the people feel. Anyways, Sniper in the chat. I'm absolutely sick to my stomach with the results of the poll. Called it a bad poll. Jacob's being called the people's producer with these polls, just off the cuff. All right, let's get to our actual poll question, which is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Today, we are asking you, the people, where will the Canucks finish in the Pacific Division standings? First, second, third, or wildcard / miss the playoffs? Harmon, right now, 60.7% of people say second, 28.8% say first, 6.5% say third, and 4% say it will be a wild card or the Canucks will miss the playoffs. I'm going second here too. I'll give you my order. I'll give you my official Pacific Division order, my prediction. I got Edmonton number 1, Vancouver number 2, Vegas number 3, Seattle number 4, LA number 5, Calgary number 6, Anaheim number 7, San Jose number 8.
I've got the same, except I've flipped LA and Seattle.
Fair enough. That's going to be an interesting one, as we talked about on today's episode with the goaltending and different factors with those teams. That was our poll question, and it was brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. Let's get to anyone else, Harm. Let's do it. Let's get to anyone else. Brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. The Canadians are back at the Nat this week. From July 30th through the end of August, the Seas have 18 games in the glorious summer weather here in Vancouver. Fireworks extravaganzas on Thursday nights, nooners on Friday afternoons, a good reason to leave work early on a Friday, and family fun Sundays. These games are all sure to be packed, so get your tickets early. Don't wait. Call 604-872-5232 or go to canadiansbaseball.com. calm. I got anyone else for you. You been watching much Olympics?
No.
Okay. I haven't either. But I watched judo today.
Did the women's soccer team win yesterday?
They did. That's what I wanted to bring up.
Right. That's
Have you been following along with what's going on?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So and Jacob, you're a soccer guy to some extent. You tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the whole situation is that they got caught spying using drones on closed practices for other teams, which apparently is super standard, but they put it in writing that they were doing it or something, and then they got caught, and now they've suspended the head coach and someone else for a year, which I think is really light. But anyways, the big thing was that they deducted 6 points in the standings from the Canada women's team to basically make it very difficult for them to get out of the round robin. They had to run the table. And that's exactly what they did. They beat France. They beat Colombia. They beat some other team. I don't know who, but
New Zealand was the first team. That's the team they spied on and got caught spying on.
Okay.
And then they beat France in stoppage time, like plus 13.
I saw that. Yeah.
13th minute of stoppage time. And then they beat Colombia to lock up the knockout round berth despite the deduction.
I just want to say, I think it's really funny. Like I grew up in North Burnaby, which I've talked about many times. A lot of Italians in North Burnaby. I think there's 3 players on the national team that went to school with good friends of mine.
Yeah, well, I played a lot of soccer obviously growing up, and we'd have some of our training sessions in Burnaby, and I feel like on a number of occasions, I can't remember the field name, but it was a nice turf field, and we'd train there or have a game there, and then it'd be like, oh, the women's team is training there after. So it's always felt like Burnaby's a hot spot for national talent.
Well, and you can thank Christine Sinclair for that.
Of course, yeah.
I'm glad you stopped me. I was about to take credit for it. Okay. Anyways, so what I want to say, they're going to the quarterfinal. Yeah, they ran the table. I can't believe it.
I'm not a big Summer Olympics guy. That's probably going to be the one sort of thing I follow now that they're in the quarters.
I was listening to Zakaris Price on this because obviously Blake is super, super tapped into soccer. And Blake was talking about how the advantage that you would get from spying on a practice, apparently it's set pieces is all you're going to see.
Well, that's what I was saying. This was the point that I was just going to bring up. I played a ton of soccer growing up, played on an academy team. You can't really pick up a lot watching other teams' practices. It's just free kicks and corners. There's the advantage or the potential gain from that relative to the risk that you're running is
6 points.
Stupid. Even before any of these ramifications happen, if you told me there's a 5% chance you get caught, do you want to do it? A 95% chance you get away with it, but you want to spy? I'd be like, no chance. The risk to reward is beyond stupid.
So they got caught, but that's the thing. The athletes didn't do anything, right? That's who pays the price.
I don't want to get into it, but at the end of the day, if it's still the responsibility, I get it. The players have every right to feel wrong.
Yeah.
But ultimately the team cheated. Not the players, but
their leaders cheated. It's poor leadership.
Again, yes, but now the team has at least some a slight advantage from cheating.
Okay, but this is what I'm trying to understand,
man.
Sure, but doesn't everybody do this? This is what I'm trying to understand. This isn't a Houston Astros thing. Okay.
I don't.
Soccer conversations.
I thought it was a little harsh. But
6 points seemed like a lot.
It was a lot.
And they made it through, so who cares?
But I don't think it would have been fair to just suspend the coach for a year and no
Why not a lifetime ban? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you should have gone harder.
If I was going to arbitrate, I'd be like, just we'll give you this chick for life. We don't need her anymore. You can have her. We don't want 3 points deducted, but you can ban our coach for life. I think that's fair.
I think that would have been fair. Much better.
Anyways.
But I think there needed to be some point reduction. 6 was too far.
I think 3 would have been fair.
Well, they petitioned to get it reduced to 3, just the 3 from the New Zealand match, because that's the one that they were spying on.
Sure.
And then they thought, okay, well, don't punish us further. But that was rejected. And then they went out and beat Colombia anyways. So.
That's badass. Congrats to the Canadian women. I just wanted to talk about it. I think that's sick. I think that's awesome. That's super badass. I watched judo today. I hate watching judo. I found that out this morning. I don't understand. I've also found the announcers, no offense, great work, everyone. not really. They don't know the sports that they're calling. Like they're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like they just don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, that looks like a great hit.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there's something.
that
It's
looks like a strike.
explain to me what's going on. I don't know this sport. Explain to me. And they're like, oh yeah, I think he went over the shoulders. That's gonna be a point. And then the color commentator's like, oh, and they decide not to give a point there. I'm like, well, what's a point then? I don't understand this sport. Explain it to me.
So I can relate to that. When I was working at SFU, we were hosting a swim meet, and I needed to do the broadcast for the swim meet. I know nothing about swimming.
They're in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me a while to realize that the dividers in the pool, there's different colors on the little plastic spinny things on the rope.
Oh yeah,
what are those for?
It's to designate like a meter, so you know how many meters behind someone is.
Oh.
And I learned that probably on like the third last race, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be broadcasting this, and I just now realized how easy it is to tell how many meters behind someone was.
If I was broadcasting swimming, and if I was like one of these Olympic announcers that clearly had never watched the sport before, I would just guess and be like, I'm gonna call this like horse racing, like very fast. Now in first, here's here now coming up the rear, and just like that's how I would call it. That's how I would call swimming. It's just like who's in first. That's all you need to know. Who's in second? Who, that's what I would do. That's how I'd call it.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be convincing. But also, like, in fairness, how many like skateboarding broadcasters are there?
Dude, what does it cost to get Tony Hawk?
Yeah.
Probably a lot. Maybe a bad example.
NBC got Snoop Dogg for 2 weeks.
That could have been cheap. What event was he calling?
Oh, he's just been doing everything. He was in the opening ceremony.
That's amazing.
He's
The opening ceremony.
He just like kind of bounces around for NBC. He's interviewing athletes.
Maybe I should watch the Olympics.
The
The
king
last
of
Olympics I
side quests,
watched,
man.
I'm not gonna lie. The last Olympics I actually watched was the 2010 Olympics.
Yeah, me too.
Like I
the
watched,
one that
I tried to watch
followed
as
really
many
closely.
events. Yeah. But it was also like I was in. How old were we at the time? 10. We would have been 10 years old.
Yeah.
We were in like grade 4 or 5. I remember our class was like we would be watching the Olympics during class. Like the Olympics would be on TV. And now I don't know how to do long division. So anyways, let's see what's in the chat from anyone else.
I also like the reason I don't watch the Summer Olympics as much is because I'm doing things outside. Like I'm just not at home. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. Like it's on it. Like it was on in the gym this morning. That's why I was watching judo. I was in the gym and they have a TV and judo was on. So I watched judo.
I'd rather be outside.
Yeah.
Like doing things. So. No.
I was hoping Jacob knew the answer, but I think he was fixing a camera, so I'll look it up.
Yes. Sorry, we had a slight issue. We're good now, though. Not sure when the final is. No.
Thanks for that, Jacob. Canada and Germany on August 3rd, which is Saturday at 10 a.m. That'll be a good one to watch. I'm gonna watch that.
That's a good time.
I'm gonna watch that. Get my cereal going. Yeah, I'm a big cereal guy. That's another thing. But anyways, okay, let's get into some actual questions here. This one from RP88. What specific skills do you think PD is going to focus on this summer to elevate his play? I'm so curious to have this conversation with Elias Pettersson because he struggled once before, similarly in the 21-22, when there was contract stuff going on. He had a late start to his season, if you recall. And he eventually got out of it, went on a tear, and talked about how, yep, I'm really happy I went through that because now I know how to get out of it. So what was different about this one, right? Like what different challenges did he face? I'm not coming here being like, oh, PD said this wouldn't happen again, and it happened again. Obviously, things must have been different. So what was different? How do you attack that if you're Elias Pettersson in the offseason? I'm guessing here, do you just go home, block out all the noise, heal up, you've got your knee, whatever, whatever you're dealing with, you heal up completely, and then in your offseason, you literally just focus on getting back to the player you know you can be?
Yeah, I think that's a large part of it. When I think about his play down the stretch in the playoffs, there were a number of things that looked off, right? First of all, his first step, his ability to separate when transporting the puck through the neutral zone, his ability to create space in tight quarters just wasn't there. How much of that was related to the knee, and just by him being healthy, will that just sort of go away and solve itself? Another thing that stood out was his sort of bounce. It felt like he was getting knocked off the puck very easily again.
Yeah.
And wasn't
Strength on
as
your
engaged.
skates. Like if
Yeah.
B's gonna work on anything, but we could have said this since his draft year. He's never been a strong skater. You would be saying, go work on your skating. If you want me to pick one specific thing for him to go work on, it's just skating. Go work on your skating. Go link up with Bo Horvat's
the acceleration and balance / strength on feet are different things, though.
Yep, that's fair.
But those stand out to the eye. Again, I don't know what role the injury played and how much of that is stuff that you can actually work on. And then this was sort of mysterious. His shot didn't feel as lethal. Again, anecdotal, right? I don't have numbers to back this up, but just didn't feel like it had the same level of zip, the same level of pinpoint accuracy. And when Pettersson's at his best, that's what he is. He has a ton of velocity on his shot and he's pinpoint accurate. He can hunt the area over a goalie's shoulder.
Yep.
Like around the ear.
Yep.
Very well. And he just wasn't able to do that as well on the power play down the stretch. So I'm looking at that. And again, why was that? I don't know what the answer to that is. Pettersson probably knows better than anybody else. Those are a few of the things that stand out. And then just confidence, right?
Yep.
You aren't able to make the impact you typically are. Now you start double clutching. You start second guessing yourself. You don't skate and make decisions with the same level of confidence. It also weirdly affected his puck handling. I wonder if the confidence then affected his puck handling, because his puck handling should have been like, even if his knee was bothering him, his puck handling shouldn't have been affected. And yet it felt like at times in the playoffs, coming out of corners, he was just sloppy. He would get checked. He wasn't able to pull off his dekes. So those are the areas that looked off. I don't know how many of them are specific attributes where it's like, oh, if I spend 2 months honing in on this, it's going to be way better by training camp, versus how much of it is just get healthy, reset confidence wise, have a fresh start in training camp.
Well, this Pettersson's going to have a big training camp. Like, he has to have a big training camp, and he has to have a big start to the season. He's a guy to watch. It's a guy to watch. Okay, we'll close it on anyone else on this one, because it's really Family Feud a bit. RP88, which next Canuck would you say deserves the next jersey retirement other than Luongo, of course?
So which
next Canuck, not current Canuck, because we answered that in Family Feud. We both said it's Quinn Hughes. Is there anybody before Quinn Hughes that should get the jersey retired?
I mean, who would be the candidates?
Like, Alex Burrow's already in the Ring of Honor. You're not retiring Ryan Kessler.
I don't think there is.
There's no one else. Like, there's no Alex Edler?
No.
You don't retire Alex Edler?
No.
Ring of Honor.
That's like the exact
Ring of Honor,
yeah,
right?
that's
okay.
Ring of Honor was meant for somebody like Alex Edler.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah, next Canuck to get their jersey retired, I'm sticking with Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
Did Elias Pettersson get 3 votes in that Family Feud? Like, I'm just thinking back to that.
More than Connor Garland.
Connor Garland gets 2. Elias Pettersson gets 3. JT Miller gets 5.
Honestly, I don't blame the people, though. Hughes is the slam dunk.
Do you want me to give you one?
Answer.
Do you want me to give you something, though? If JT Miller wins a Conn Smythe en route to the Canucks winning Stanley Cup, he's getting his jersey retired.
I would have voted JT Miller in that personally.
Really? Over Hughes?
Well, I would have. I mean, it's not that I don't think Hughes would, but in like to vote and thinking about that, I'm like, yeah, I'll go JT Miller, because you know he's kind of the guy that the fans kind of rally around.
For one season, they were throwing his jersey on the ice 2 years ago.
But you're right. If he
he's got to do more.
If he wins a Conn Smythe and they win the cup, his numbers going up the day he retires.
Yes,
right?
We are talking about jersey retirement. We are not talking about how great were you this past season. I don't know. I don't think JT Miller should have got 5 votes in that one. Although he could go off with the Conn Smythe. I don't know.
But I also like Pettersson hasn't done anything to warrant jersey retirement yet either. So whereas Hughes
career
is
totals.
Like,
you're looking at career totals.
Hughes is going to be a Hall of Famer by the end of his career.
Yes.
He's already won a Norris Trophy now. Like,
yep.
And in him compared to the next best Canucks defenseman in history, like miles.
77 points. He's 77 points away from breaking the all-time record for scoring among Canucks defensemen. He's going to break Alex Edler's record. Took Edler like 900 something games to get there. Hughes is about to do it next season. He's 77 points away.
Yeah. So as of now, like there's one guy that is clearly going to get his jersey number retired. It's Hughes, and then it's going to require Herculean efforts from either one of Miller or Pettersson, and presumably a cup win or something for those guys to enter that conversation too.
Lisa Martin throwing out Bieksa.
Come on,
Ring
guys.
of honor. Ring of honor. Sniper. Louis Erickson, you fools, is what he said in the chat. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which is brought to you by, you guessed it, Bet365. Our bet today, the Baltimore Orioles to win in any fashion against those Cleveland Guardians. They are visiting the Guardians. Jackson Holiday, not sure if you saw this, Harm, hit a grand slam, first career home run yesterday for Jackson Holiday. I'm taking the Orioles as the underdogs there at plus 100 to take down the Cleveland Guardians today. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365. Must be 90 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. This was a lot of fun. Another fun off-season episode. And I'm already looking forward to Thursday's episode next week when we do Family Feud again. And I'm sure those questions are going to be very, very hard. But for our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, and my co-host, Harmon Dial, my name is Dave Guardelli. Thank you so much for listening to the episode of the Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day.